Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to a special episode of Stories, Soul Work, and Substack. I got a special guest today, Shadow. Oh, hang on. Uh, Technical glitch. Doing production and doing everything else at one time. So I apologize for that. But one of the things that we're excited about today is we're going to talk to Shadow and her journey from um, her writing and her story and how all that developed and how is writing helping her move past some of the pains that she's experiencing. And one of the things that I'm excited about it is I read her story, which I restacked, and it was called The Social Worker. And that one actually went, wow. It was pretty detailed, very raw, very honest. And it's something that I would recommend anybody to read. It's one of those things that you get a glimpse of what a child goes through during a very toxic situation and their mindset. And then she really brings that right into the home. So it was one of those things that I thought, wow, this is a really good thing. And I really want to bring her on as to talk about that experience and maybe talk about how is that moving forward and maybe share some tips and understanding of how you can recognize those things or how can you prevent them from other or whatever. Anyways, no, I like to bring her in. Let's see if I can bring her in. Hey, Shadow, how you doing?
I am great. It's really nice to be here.
Nice to meet you. So, just kind of give a little bit of glimpse. How long you been on Substack? I'm just interested in about that.
Since I think June of last year, so 7 or 8 months.
Okay. And we've been following each other since then. And one
Mhm.
of the things I do love about your writing is your raw and honesty and how you really try to, and you're very descriptive and you really put that moment in a freeze. I would like to say that where you kind of just like um, descriptive in a way that you put the reader at pause for a second and try to describe that feeling, that sense of what's going on. And that's one of the things I really love about your writing. Um, but let's talk about the journey to get there. So how did you start writing? What motivated you, or was this something you've been doing for a while now, or since a child, I should say?
Yeah, I have one that I haven't released yet, but I wrote it when I was 13. So throughout my life, I wasn't safe as a kid to really write and expect someone not to find it and read it. But I've been finding ways to write throughout my whole life. Most of the time, it was more expressing feelings via poetry or creative journaling. Like you said, I try to be descriptive, but of the mindset. So, in revealing trauma, I'm not going to say the way that somebody hit me, or I'm not going to go into the goriest of the details. But I definitely, in order for my like inner child to be seen and to complete this road of recovery, I have to be specific about the mindset that I was in, the perspective, what was actually happening. I see the term like trauma porn
Yeah.
used, where people are writing from a more unhealed perspective and they want to be just gory about what happened to them to get it out of them. I try to write from a more processed and healed perspective. It took me over 20 years to be ready to really write about this stuff, to sit down and make pieces that will fit into a book
Mhm.
and not, lose it while while I'm doing that.
So you touched a couple things. One of the things you talked about inner child, which is I think we as writers we all kind of dive into that inner child and we find it. But let's talk about more because in your story you basically say I don't know what happened to your mother and father. I guess that's another story. Or
Yeah, it's a
so I
very complicated story.
so I kind of jumped into it like oh okay. So where did the mom? I got so many questions, but and after I figured it out, it was a series of stories you're writing, and I think you're
Yeah.
pushing on Substack to do that. So,
Mhm.
kind of just give the audience a little bit like what happened to that to the beginning of that story, like what happened to your mother, and how did you end up with your aunt and uncle.
So how we ended up with our aunt and uncle was to try to do the shortest version of this. My sister and I were born to a teen mom who was kind of disowned from her family. It was very tumultuous. She grew up in abuse. But we weren't severely abused by our mom, maybe a little neglected.
Yeah.
We were kind of just along for her ride. We moved every year. We were very poor. But I had kind of a normal-ish 80s early childhood. Then we went to live with our grandmother when I was in the fourth grade for a school year. And the idea was that this was so my parents could get back on their feet financially and provide a better life for us. But at the end of that year, instead of us going back to live with our parents, we were told we were being sent via plane to the East Coast to live with our aunt and uncle. And we didn't know these people. We had never been there. And they sent us on a plane alone. So it's a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old put on a plane to the East Coast to meet strangers that we were going to live with, but we were promised it was only a year. But what we found out by the end of that week was that this was an extremely abusive home. We'd never been exposed to that before. And then by the end of that school year, that my aunt and uncle had kind of stolen legal custody of us through a lot of cheating. She was a paralegal. She had connections. And my mom was told a lot of lies. We were forced to say we were okay with being there. And they got legal custody. And we had one phone conversation with my mother in which it was clear to me that she wasn't coming. So we were kind of kidnapped, kind of abandoned. In our minds, we were kidnapped because our mother was fooled into sending us there. And then our mother was fooled into allowing this custody thing to happen. And she was so fooled that she just left us there and didn't come for us or try to find out more when she had grown up with my aunt and knew she was a horribly abusive person. So we kind of were abandoned. We were kind of legally kidnapped because we were forced to lie and say that we were okay. And then years later was this social worker visit. The background why the social worker visited was because my sister, after years of being there, told my mom what was happening. I didn't. I was the older sibling. I would have kept the secret forever. But my sister told my mom, and my mom started fighting for custody of us.
So with that said, I don't want to jump too farther into that yet, but so where were you living originally? Were you living the West Coast and then you're flown onto the East Coast?
We were here in the beach cities in Anaheim area.
Oh, okay.
This is where I was born.
And you've never met your aunt and uncle at all?
I had met them once at a family reunion when I was very small, and I didn't remember them.
And your mother was a teenager. She wasn't abusive of any kind, like
No, she was not physically abusive.
And she was not addicted to anything other than
she had drug problems. Oh. Yes, I remember as a child I found a mirror with what I thought was cocaine, and she later explained was speed, which it doesn't matter. But she had a lot of partying problems. There were a lot of strangers in and out. We were moving schools every year. It wasn't great, but no one was attacking us.
Yeah. Wow. So you did have a lot of an interesting childhood. I mean, more than...
Yeah, it's complex. It's not typical for sure.
So when you first met, I'm just curious, when you first met your aunt and uncle, probably at the reunion or later, but was there a sense of like, wow, there's something off here? Can you remember that? Or you just kind of
instantly? Yeah, instantly. I can't speak for my little sister, but when they picked us up from the airport, they were just people kind of being nice. And I was an extremely shy kid. I was very shy, so I did not talk to strangers. So I was very quiet. And the first thing they did was take us out to dinner, which ended up being a very rare thing that they did. And just the way they treated their daughter, it was very uncomfortable. and I instantly did not feel safe with them.
Mm. And how long did you live with them? Is it was because I'm
It
at
was
least
about 6 years.
6 years. And
It
did
was
your mom?
we were sent there the summer after I completed fourth grade.
Yeah.
And then we didn't move back until halfway through 10th grade.
And then your mom took custody of you guys back, or
Yes, right. So during the ninth grade, my mom finally filed something with the court because my aunt and uncle were not letting us speak with her for years or see her. And the court forced them to allow a visit over the summer. So we got a 2 week visit where we got to fly to California and stay with our parents. And during that visit, I didn't say a word, but my little sister told my mom. And then at the end of the visit, my mom confronted me and said, Lauren told me, or I shouldn't use her name, sorry, let's clip it out.
okay,
Said she told me what's going on, and I'm going to fight for custody of you.
right?
So there was that little bit of hope, but also like, yeah, right, it's not happening. So after we went back there, we were supposed to keep it a secret that we knew what my mom was going to do, and our mom flew herself to South Carolina, got a part-time job at Taco Bell, found a motel to live in, and fought her ass off.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, where was your father at this time?
Well, my birth father, I never knew, but my stepdad married my mom at 6, and I've always considered him my dad. And he was there. He was here in California holding down the fort while my mother spent, you know, probably 6 months in South Carolina fighting for custody.
Wow, that was pretty brave of her to do that.
I think so too. There's a lot she did wrong, but she definitely did that right.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, I mean, we're all not perfect people. Oh, we're not all perfect people at all.
Yeah, yes, and something writer Emmy, shout
Mhm.
out, said recently. She wrote a piece addressing her father, and obviously there's a lot of fucked up um, things that her father said and did over the course of her life that had a negative effect on her, and a lot of healing that needed to be done and finding herself. And so my immediate response is like, that's terrible. And she's like, but I do love him. We're not the sum of our worst moments. When there's humanity in someone,
Yeah.
then it's worth acknowledging that humanity. And my mother has a lot of humanity.
Well, I mean, just for the guts to get on a plane, go. I mean, you said your aunt is a legal
She was our legal guardian. Yeah.
guardian, but she had legal. She also had. Did she have some legal? Wasn't she a legal?
Connections.
Yeah.
She was a paralegal to a big law firm.
Right. So there you go. So
Mm-hmm.
so in the story, if I may, the social service comes in and says, and took you guys out basically, and just kind of just said, "There's nothing really happening here, right, ladies or girls?" And
Yeah.
you kind of both went, "Yeah, there's nothing really happening here," and that kind of just ended there. And the story was, I mean, I'm kind of like making it, I'm netting the story, but essentially, that's what was going on. Was your aunt was I trying to coerce the whole thing
Yeah,
into
she's doing a great job. I'm surprised
right.
it didn't work.
So ultimately, what happened to I mean, obviously, we're jumping a little further, but did the judge kind of just said this is wrong and she deserves the kids need to go back to their mother, or how did that all happen?
The only thing I remember the judge saying is that he believed that neither parent was fit to be our parent, but our mother was more fit than our aunt and uncle.
Yeah, the court said something similar to my situation too.
Really?
Yeah,
Yes.
and
So
it
they were
wasn't
like,
towards
they'll
me;
be better.
it was the other side. So, yeah,
Yeah. Right. It was a lot, we didn't just like after my mother won custody, we were just told one day we're taking a bus to California now. We didn't have that like ability to like say goodbye to our friends or anything. So it was like 6 years of establishing friendships and whatever. I had a dog.
Oh,
I
that's right.
was
You
in
do
an
have a dog. I remember.
orchestra, and it was
The na
all
the
gone.
neighbor, just a side note, the neighbor would get all upset that because the dog would go into his,
You'd run the cows,
yeah,
yeah.
and then you would have to go out there and kick. Just that was kind of. I thought that was a comical scene to see, and you're just struggling as a 9-year-old. Well, that's just a dog. He's going to do what he wants to do,
Yeah.
and the adults don't have that comprehension. So it was really that perspective of seeing it that way as a child versus the adult being, I guess they're being childish and you're being the
Well,
adult in that situation.
when you're when you live in the country, you learn things from the farmer's perspective too. When a pack of dogs gets together and run cows, they can kill the cow. They can run the cow to such exhaustion
Yeah.
that the cow dies.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So they see it as, hey, your dogs keep running my cows. I'm going to shoot one of them. Which one am I going to aim at? I'm going to aim at the person that fights and yells at me and tells me I have no right to do that.
Right.
So my strategy was, oh, I understand. You do what you got to do. I love my dog, though. I hope she doesn't do it again. And he'd never shot my dog. So I was grateful for that.
Okay, so I'm sorry to digress in that because I thought that was an interesting part of your story.
Yeah.
But because it just showed your maturity at that level, and the adults didn't really have that much. But the thing I wanted to go back to is, so there wasn't really a celebration of you guys leaving, and you guys didn't really have time to process it. You just were on a. So, what was that feeling like? All of us, like you were trying to describe it before I interrupted you, but
That's okay.
that feeling of just like, wow, I'm now going back to California. How did that felt at the time?
I can't even describe it. It was um it was kind of like all of our moves. All of our moves as kids, our move to our grandma's, our being shipped to South Carolina, they're all terrifying because we didn't get a choice and we didn't get any warning. But the move to California at least had hope because we had just visited for 2 weeks, and they were like, look, we have this little place, and we have all these neighborhood friends, and I had already met some of the teenagers in the neighborhood, and I thought they were nice. So it was like there was more hope than anything, and there was like the celebration in our heads of like we're finally getting out from under these people.
Right.
So there was this abundance of hope, which was soon altered because we didn't have a great life. We didn't come back to a great life. But we had all this like, finally, we're being rescued.
Are you saying you didn't when you? Oh, let me just add. Like, so when you went there, did you have a better life? Was it a lot more?
I
I'm
had a
sure
much
struggle.
better life in that I wasn't being attacked physically, but I was. We moved away from the great place they had. We didn't have those friends. We ended up in a very like remote sort of ghetto area. We were very poor. We were treated like we should be very grateful for being rescued, and we were big fat burdens. So we weren't gotten therapy. No presses were charged. Pressed against the abusers. And we were with a very unhealed mother with mental health issues and unprocessed PTSD, and she was very not seeing past her own nose, not seeing us.
Yeah.
Even my sister, who was sexually assaulted while we were on the East Coast, was not given therapy or anything like that. So we were kind of just staying unhealed, unprocessed, and all of us couldn't see past our own nose. So me and my mother ended up butting heads, which made me and my dad butting heads. My sister reclused, and I left the home when I was 16. So I spent like 1 year with my parents before I left.
So your sister was abused sexually.
Yes.
Was there, do you know who that was, or you
It
don't?
was it was our uncle.
And how she processed all this, or do you know?
Well, I always thought, because I always kind of felt like a mess throughout my adulthood, like I always thought she was doing better than me. And neither of us had gotten therapy for many years.
Mm.
It was a very scary thing to do, to talk about it. But I would end up calling her like in the middle of the night, begging her forgiveness because I didn't know, but I
Yeah,
felt like I should have. And she would say, "You were just a kid. You did. We were both just surviving." But I didn't feel like there was a good excuse. That's what brings tears.
I understand.
I haven't written about that yet. On scars.
um, that's so. When did you find out? What year or what age?
I didn't find out until she told my mother
The two
what was
weeks in
happening.
vacation. The
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks. That's when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, and nothing happened to the uncle, obviously.
No, he 100% got away with everything. He maintained his reputation. Both of them maintained their reputation in church and their whatever. And no one ever pressed charges against them or anything. I just wrote them off as dead to me. And I would get really upset when my mother would talk to my cousin, who I've mentioned in the social worker visit. Because as a young adult, I saw my cousin as another abuser in the house, and I had
Right.
written her off as dead to me.
Yeah.
And here's my mom talking to her and gossiping about me, and I was like, I don't want her to know anything about my life. So that was kind of a contentious thing, because by proxy, my cousin would tell my aunt and uncle things about me, and I didn't want them to know anything. So I didn't talk to my mom even for a very long time as an adult. I cut off my parents except for their grandparent visits for like 15 years.
Wow.
It wasn't until I divorced and got intensive therapy and started seeing past my own nose that I was able to see my mother and my dad for who they are now, and like form healthy relationships with them.
That is that's some powerful stuff there, and took a lot of courage to get through all that. And
Yes,
that's
it does. As
not
you
for the
will
weak,
know, it does.
it's not the weak heart, let me tell you. Yeah. So now you said you got got married, and you probably divorced, you have children. I don't know her whole family dynamic, so I apologize, just kind of throwing that out there. But throughout this entire process of like, well, I'm gonna jump back.
Okay.
Are they still alive back in South Carolina? Are they still around?
I have no idea.
Okay. And your cousin, who you said, and you put it in the story as well, which was, like you said, it was like the three abusers, and she was
Yes.
just mimicking what they were doing to her, probably, and then just passing it on to other people.
Yeah.
Is she still is she still in contact with your mother and things like that, or is she kind of like
No, my mother cut her off years ago before me and my mom started rebuilding. My mom grew up in that way and she cut her off. My sister encountered her on social media in the last couple of years, and she was like just confirming that she's the same person. She's big on MAGA, and she had posted something saying her father was her hero. And my sister sent her a private message and said, your father molested me. And she was like, that was a long time ago. I can't believe you haven't forgiven him.
Wow. So she even acknowledged that it happened.
Right. Well, she knows it happened. Yes, absolutely.
Was she abused as too, or like do you guys know that
She was
anything?
not. She was not sexually abused. My sister was the only one that was like consistently sexually abused in the home. In fact, when we first moved into the home, my sister and I shared a room, and they got us bunk beds. And uh, maybe 1 year in, time is a really squishy soup.
Yeah.
But early on, they shifted me to be in a room with my cousin instead of my sister. And they justified it by saying, oh, you girls are like older and you have more in common. And I really didn't, you don't overthink it. You're just surviving. You're just like, this is what's happening now. This is what's happening now. But now I understand this is why we were separated rooms.
It was a predator move.
Yeah, a big predator move that I just did not. I was a kid.
No, but
So I didn't see it.
I know you're trying to beat yourself up over it, but
Yeah.
you
Oh,
just,
now I would see it clear as
yeah,
day. I was a little kid, and you tell me this is what we're doing and why. And in an abusive home, you're like, I guess this is what we're doing and why. So but in hindsight, it all falls into place, and you're like, oh
yeah.
my God. She said that on the nights that it would happen, before it would happen, she would see what she perceived as this little demon running around the house. This little black blob with glowy red eyes, sort of shifting across the wall and making little scampering sounds. And I always thought that was really interesting that it was before it happened. Because how do you... I'm a spiritual, not a religious person. Back then we were raised in religion. So people would, oh, it's a demon or whatever. And you can't try to find an explanation where there is none. But that, I mean,
obviously
it could have just been that she was intuiting it and this was her mind making it make sense.
So was your aunt ever, do you think she knew too, or was this just hidden from her as well?
I really do think she at the very least strongly suspected that one of us was being sexually abused, because there were many times where specifically she would take it out on me. Like she would just come randomly with all the rage a person can possibly have. She would just pull me out of whatever normal thing I was doing and just beat me to a pulp. And I never knew why. I never there was more than once where it was just taking a shower and she would drag me into the hallway and attack me, and I couldn't understand what I did. And in hindsight, I think she was suspecting that he was assaulting me and blaming me for it. That's the only thing I could, not that she's a rational person, but that's the only thing I can come up with, that with no other catalyst, that she would be so enraged with me that she would do that without giving any explanation. So I think that she at the very least suspected it.
Okay. So I'm just going to ask some quick questions because I'm just kind of curious because I'm processing something, processing a question. So were they prominent in their community? Were they high level? Or were they just average individuals? I mean, she's obviously in a law firm, and obviously, I don't know if
Right.
but was he a prominent person as well, or just?
He worked at General Electric, so they both had really good careers, and they had 13 acres of pristine land, and they were respected in all of their professional and personal relationships, as much as I could tell. And we were very present in church. There was a big fake front for us, and I think that was just part of their cover. That we were always, every single Sunday, we went to a big, kind of commercial, it was Baptist church. And so they would, chat with the other people and have church friends. But it wasn't a thing for them to come to our house. like ever. People did not come to our house. We were not allowed to go to most other people's houses. Um, but yeah, with the relationship, they were careful with the relationships they formed.
So basically, their behavior was protecting the abuse. So what I'm saying is, like, if we go back and forth on some of the things, I mean, there was a lot of defensive mechanism in place where they would sidestep some things and background some, do a back end on some other things. But also, what they were doing is when your mom got involved and started fighting for custody, I think that's where they were very defensive because they knew if that story gets out, they could hurt their image, their whole thing. And I think that's where you saw a lot of fight between your mom and them, trying to protect what they did. Now that's why I asked, did you think your aunt was involved? Because then it was more or less protecting him from whatever that he was doing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wouldn't put it past them, and they did a lot to protect themselves. And in the custody battle, they started. So when they weren't home on summer break or spring break, unless it was raining or snowing, we were locked out of the house all day. When we were in the house, the phone was taken off the hook and locked in their bedroom. So I mean, back then we just had phones with cords. So she would take the phone in her bedroom off the hook, put it between her pillows because forever it'll do that beep 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 thing, and then lock her door so we couldn't use the phone. But during the custody battle, she started recording the phone. I think she found out we were sneaking into the house, sneaking into her room, hanging up the phone and using the phone. And she put recording devices on the phone and then would confront us about what we said to a friend over the phone. They stopped physically attacking us all the time. They started like pretending to be okay. Yeah, things got really differently weird around the house during the custody battle, and they were doing a lot to protect their image. And she had reached out, obviously, to child support services and gotten ahead of the story.
Yeah.
We did see, which I didn't include in that story, but I probably will in the book, that same social worker we saw one more time.
Okay.
And it was only from a distance. When we came home from school, our aunt and uncle were never home yet. So we'd have to wait outside and they would come home and let us in. This time, my aunt was home and she was on the porch having coffee with this woman. So I walk up from the bus stop and I see that they're having coffee. And I'm kind of just like, and roll my eyes and go in through the back door. I never saw her again, and she never spoke with me again. I do know that my mother told me she spoke to a male CPS social worker when she reported the abuse, and he came onto her sexually and insinuated that he could do her favors. So we kind of had only the worst experiences that you can have with that department. I don't know how long they were like this, but it was pretty bad. It was pretty corrupt.
Yeah, I mean, don't be wrong. Those social service people do a lot of work, and sometimes they do a lot of great work, but sometimes they really miss the mark. I mean, big time. And
Well,
I
what's
don't mean that.
worse
I
is
don't
they
mean
don't fire the bad people.
that's one, and two, they protect certain things,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want to get into that, but wow. So it's interesting how your aunt was very manipulative as an individual, and it was able to coerce people and make them to believe, and especially that child service person that was there to protect you, but really was befriending the the abuser. And
Yeah.
that's 101 you don't do as a, I mean, I just don't know the word, but like you don't really sit there and have a conversation with the abuser and not have a
Yeah,
conversation with the children. That's not,
exactly.
you know, I, I don't I don't understand that. So in all sense, like when you look back now and you say that was my whateverism, what do you say to yourself now?
What do you mean?
Like when you look back in history and you go, wow, that happened to me. I mean, obviously some of it's surreal and some of it's like,
Mm.
you know, and are you still trying to process it? Like how are you dealing with that part of the world now?
Well, I went through a lot of years. I've been through about 7 years of really intensive therapy.
Mm,
I've just been newly referred to trauma therapy, the specialized trauma therapy. There's still work I'm doing.
right.
Um, it's it's a lot better than it was. I
Right.
can write about it now. I can talk about it objectively now. Some of it still hits
Yeah.
emotionally. The stuff I haven't written about yet
Yeah.
is the stuff that still really hits hard. So I'm like, okay, I need more processing first. Um, but yeah, sometimes something about living with CPTSD is that you can do all the hard work and you can be as healed a person as you can possibly be in this moment, but you're always going to have to keep doing the work, and there's no guarantee that the symptoms that you've reduced because of the work or even eliminated sometimes won't come back. I still deal with nightmares and sleep paralysis and flashbacks and dissociation. It's a lot better than it ever was.
Right.
But it's a lifetime of work, and it's a great injustice to walk through it knowing that the people who sentenced you to this are fine.
Well, are they really? I mean,
Or in their
I mean,
mind or in
I
my
know
mind are
in
fine.
your mind, I understand that, but really, are they? I
Yeah,
don't
no,
know, but
yeah, they're not living a quality existence because
right.
they're
But I want to just
messed up.
explain what your condition is, just so the audience understands what you're going through. Like, what is that?
I have complex PTSD and I live with an anxiety disorder and intermittent depression. The CPTSD symptoms I experience are the increased anxiety. I'm triggered most by toxic people interactions. So I have to keep a very clean, healthy life and healthy friendships and healthy family. If someone enters into my world and has a toxic personality or does toxic behaviors, I have to completely separate from them because my whole world will start spiraling and my symptoms get worse, and it undoes me for like a period of time even after I separate from them, and it's not my choosing. It's my nervous system and my mind, because these things are conditioned. When you go through long-term trauma, it alters your DNA. It alters you at a cellular level, your muscle memory, I'm clumsy, things that I didn't have as a little kid before all this. Over time, as I grew and developed, it twisted things. So I still deal with bouts of really bad insomnia and things like that. But what I don't deal with anymore, because I did the work, is I don't deal with accepting toxicity or abuse in my life. I don't deal with any unhealthy relationship dynamics. I'm very healthy in my relationships. So there's a lot the work can do, but there's just some things it can't fix.
So, so you mentioned about some of the things you're working on right now, and thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. So what's like when you talk about toxic people, like, is it just someone yelling, or is it just someone trying to give you a hard
Oh,
time?
just passive aggressive remarks.
Oh, passive aggressive. Okay.
Oh, that's the worst. That's literally the worst. Somebody snapping at someone
Yeah.
verbally. I told you 3 times. I can't have that around me. I'm sorry. I know this is how you guys interact. That's great. You can do it over there. Just the little things are like big.
So with that said, so let me walk you through. Let me try to understand your day of life. Like, are you like, do you avoid things in your life? Like, do you avoid crowds, or do you avoid like how do you function? I guess is the
It's
best.
hard. It's so
Yeah.
hard to function. I qualify for disability, but it would be no way to live.
Right.
So I'm not. I am a school nurse, and that's hard. But I do have to always look to protect myself. I'm kind of a justice warrior. So if someone's an asshole, I confront them and tell them they're being an asshole. Like,
Right.
wow, does it feel good to be an asshole? When I talk about that, um, because maybe it's that the child that experienced so much injustice. As a high
Yeah.
schooler, I would fight people on behalf of other people.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, I sometimes it takes all the social energy I have to go run an errand, to be perceived in public,
Right.
to just interact with a stranger. Sometimes it's I come home from work, just some people come home from work and they're like, oh, let's make dinner, let's do this, and I'm like, I'm so exhausted. I'm exhausted physically, mentally, emotionally, just overstimulated to the max. So yeah, like I have to fight not to avoid these things. I'm brave and I face them and I do them, but it's exhausting.
Wow. Okay. So now you work as a nurse. So I'm just picturing in my head like all the kids screaming and all that. Does that bother you, or is that
It's so
kind of
overstimulating.
yeah?
I have patience with them and I love the kids and they're the reason I enjoy my job at all. but but I come home so exhausted and overstimulated. I don't like working in an office with a bunch of people and being perceived all the time. People watching me work. I really, it's really triggering. So it's always something I'm managing. I've been back in college. I was approved by the Department of Rehabilitation to have tuition free college in order to study for a career that doesn't exacerbate the situation. So I'm back in school studying psychology, and I was studying some ASL as well because I would really like to be a therapist or a psychologist who can support the deaf community.
Oh, so why the deaf?
I don't. My son took ASL in high school, and when you take that language specifically, you also need to learn about the culture because our education system teaches you absolutely nothing about American deaf culture. And there's a really disturbing history in our country of how the culture has been treated and ostracized. And I kind of that pulled on my heartstrings. And I like to stand up for marginalized communities. I volunteer, I work with LGBTQIA kids. So that really hit me as like, I always wanted to do nonprofit work. So I was like, I could do nonprofit work by being one of the few who can help people psychologically and also be able to do it in their language so they don't need a translator or anything lost in translation. They can be right there with me.
Right. Right. That's interesting. I thought there was like a deaf person in your family, and that's where
Nope.
the whole it was,
I don't know any deaf people.
it was
It makes it
completely
really hard to practice.
it was completely. I'm gonna be a warrior for them. That's it.
Yeah, it just felt really good. And the more I learn about the community and the more I learn about the language, it just feels really right.
Right. Yeah. So you're what is your typical day like? Do you prepare for the day? Like what are the things you like? Obviously, some people meditate for the day, some people pray. I mean, or some people might just drink a cup of warm water. Like, what is your preparation for the day to face this noise that you're dealing with that you are sensitive to?
Um, I don't know that I do anything special to prepare. I do have this little app it's a self-care app. I would literally recommend to anyone. adult or child that my son got me into. It's called Finch, like the bird. And there's so many aspects to it. I can't get into describing it. I could just say, try it for free for a few weeks. It's free. And the free version is good and full.
Yeah.
But it's, you have these things that are hard for you. So even if it's get out of bed, wash your face. So you can alter your little daily list of achievements that you can check off. And there's breathing exercises that it leads you with a breathing exercise. So I do a calm breathing exercise, and then before bed I do a sleep breathing exercise, and I get my little Finchy points and my little Finch grows. But really that's it. I'm just always kind of breathing through anxiety as it comes. I listen to an absolute crap ton of music. I'm an audiophile and I'm obsessed with music my whole life. I have 1,500 playlists, so that's probably my biggest comfort is music.
I'm assuming you're not into heavy metal or rap like that, are you? Or
Yeah, I just
oh,
went and saw Catatonia and Opeth last week.
because so I'm sorry. I'm thinking in the back of my head those type of music might trigger her. So, but that's awesome. Like,
No, you know what? Like progressive metal, emotional stuff. Emo is probably one of my biggest loved genres, one of my best playlists because you feel seen in the music. The angst you can experience it with them.
right.
The sad music makes me happy. Radiohead, you're like, oh, and Rainbows is my favorite Radiohead album. Oh, that's their saddest album. Yes. I'm there with you. You feel seen in the art, I think is what it does for me.
That's interesting. So there's no genre that you don't like,
I really can't stand mumble rap or country pop. I literally have to make it stop if country pop isn't there. It feels like soulless robot music to me. It's an algorithm in my head. But I've never liked it. It's just my style. I've just never liked it.
Especially when you live in
But old-fashioned country, Patsy Cline, Johnny Cash, I can totally get down with that.
Okay. Got it. All right. There's some heart to it,
Yeah, there's heart to it. It's not a formula. It's
Yeah.
It's more, it hits me as art more.
All right. So this is a remarkable journey of yours, and it does take a lot of courage what you've done and what you accomplish and what you do every day to kind of get yourself through some of the things you're challenging with. But again, I keep thinking to myself, like, when you reflect back to those times, like, is it triggering, or is it kind of like just like that's a different person, or how do you see that world now? Like, I don't think I really understand that yet.
Well, sometimes I'm still in it in my nightmares, so it's both. But now, like, after all the intensive therapy, I feel really joined with my inner child. I feel like she is seen now, where she was always cowering or hurting or lashing out. She's one with me and seen, and this is like sort of all, I've worked through this part. I can talk about it. I've put it together, and then writing that scene is, I'm putting myself there. I'm going, okay, and what happened next? I'm putting myself in my head, and I'm seeing my aunt, and I'm seeing my uncle, and I'm feeling what I'm feeling, and seeing my sister. It's hard, but I've processed it to the point that you can be like, whew, that paragraph was hard, but I'm like, but it's finished.
Yeah.
Sign finished. It's finished. And I feel like my inner child feels finally like healed from that and fully seen. And then I can like
wipe that out.
Next.
So that's the point where I think a lot of people, when they write, it comes from a deep inside, and they find that inner child like you keep talking about. And I really want to talk about the inner child because I think it's really important for self-discovery and yourself, your writing. When you go back into that world, is she a happy person, or is she kind of now content with life now and seeing positive in life, or how do you see that inner child today?
Well, when you go back in that moment, she's who she was in that moment.
Right.
So I'm me. I'm me now. And I'm seeing her in that miserable moment. And I'm saying, it's okay. We can see this because we're okay now. And that's part of what you do in intensive therapy in imaginal, is that how you say it? Imaginal exposure.
Yeah.
You, and I don't have mind's eye, so I can't imagine with pictures, but you imagine yourself there, and you imagine you see your inner child, you're you, and you separate yourself from your inner child and you see their suffering, and then you comfort them.
Right.
And you say, you're safe, you're not there anymore, we're one now, you're here, we're grown, we're it's okay to be okay.
Right.
And I'll probably be posting it today, honestly. I was just working on a piece called CPTSD Memories in Time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's part of it, is rejoining. Like, you can't rejoin yourself with that. The inner child is still just perpetually suffering until you fully process that and like rejoin with that child's moment in time self. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Picture yourself in your worst moment and you say, I'm so sorry this happened to you. That was terrible. It's not happening anymore. And so then the CPTSD you're living with, it's a little bit less because there's a little bit where it knows now, your body knows now, that's not happening to me anymore. That's not right around the corner anymore. I don't need to live in fear of these moments anymore with my nervous system. So every little bit helps. That's why it takes a lot of therapy, because you have to revisit so many moments. And you can't visit them all. Because there's a lot you don't even remember.
So it's funny, and I'm a Gen Xer, and when we were growing up, it was just basically deal with it and move on. Mentality, right? And I don't know what generation you're in, but
I was born in '79.
You were born, so you were just the crisp of the Gen X, but
Yeah.
you're more millennial. You're
I
probably
was more millennial.
Yeah, you're probably in that world. I'm sure. I mean, because as you're growing up as a Gen X in the early '70s, you were told to kind of just figure it out on your own, and if something
especially as a man,
well,
a boy,
yes, suck it up.
Nobody wants to hear your feelings.
No one's going to hear you. So the reason why I say that is because today I was having a conversation with somebody that in a store that I knew, and the person's like, same age brackets that I was in, and I said, well, and it was talking about my health and how we got there. And I said, I ignored it enough that got me there. And that's my mindset as a Gen Xer, was just basically press the pain down and move forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think you can do that in your situation. You don't have, I don't know if that, I mean, has anybody, I'm just talking. So I apologize if I'm stepping on something here, but like, you can't really press that down because of all the trauma you had. And I think I'm just trying to educate other people, because of so much overwhelming of going on in your life, that you have to live with this on a day-to-day basis. And you have to learn to either accept it or let it haunt you forever. And I think you're at that. I think you're passing the haunting part and moving more towards the thing. But that doesn't, like, you can't just press it down and just move forward. You have to walk into it and deal with it. And I guess, I don't know if there is a question in that. I'm just trying to.
Do you feel like when you were pressing it down and moving forward, do you feel like it wasn't coming back up and it wasn't causing harm to your life?
Oh, yeah, it was causing harm.
Right. So I was doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I didn't start therapy until I was 38. So I tried therapy once. I was very brave. I went to my doctor about 35 and I said, I was abused as a kid. I think I need help. I don't know where to start. He put me on an anxiety medication, referred me for therapy. I had a horrible experience with a terrible woman who was very, like, in my mind, triggered me in a way that my aunt was sitting right there. And so I was like, fuck this. I can't do this. And so I didn't go. And that's why I've stressed so hard. It's our responsibility to keep trying therapy until you find the right therapist, because nobody's, it's very few people that get along perfectly with you or have the right perspectives to help. But I pushed it down and, cut off everybody and was like, I am moved on. But I didn't do a good job. I didn't know my worth. I thought I was a great mom. I wasn't. I married a man who was already not good to me. And I put up with him for way too many years, and cheating and lying and treating me like shit when I was a good wife. And,
He was
I
abusive?
don't think that I would have gone through all of that additional trauma and regrets as a mom if I had just stopped shoving it down and moving on. And if I had just gotten help from the beginning, I
So
think I would have saved myself a lot of years of additional suffering.
So your husband at the time, he's obviously an ex now, but was he abusive as well? I mean, was he repeating
He
some of
was
the?
really emotionally abusive, but I treated him like he was my hero because he wasn't physically abusive.
So was he mimicking some of what your aunt and uncle did as a child?
And his manipulation, confusing lies, and stuff like that, yeah. But he didn't physically attack me. So
Okay.
I saw him as safe,
Hmm.
even though everything pointed to the opposite of safe.
Because, and I asked that because you kind of marry somebody that you mimic from a child because you felt that was
Mhm.
safe, and you marry into that person because you're familiar with it. And
Mhm.
obviously that sort of, obviously he wasn't physical, so the good thing is that he was just verbally abusive from what I'm understanding, and that was okay for you because you could handle that, I guess. And
In
but
my
you,
mind, I guess.
yeah, I'm just saying in your mind.
Yeah.
But it took you another 20 years to kind of like, I really need something in my life that's a lot more meaningful, a lot more personable. So was the divorce nasty as well, or was that
Oh,
sort
it
of
was terrible. He's a horrible narcissist.
okay?
And I can't take credit for divorcing him by finally growing up and deciding I deserved better.
Mhm.
I was given no choice by his actions. At that point, I found out he had several girlfriends going at one time.
Wow.
So it became so, he had cheated on me throughout the marriage. And the first time he cheated on me, I broke up. I said, well, you're cheating. We can't be together. He ran to the pastor that married us, who was his youth pastor, who called me and basically told me it was my fault because when I was pregnant, I wasn't being physical enough. I wasn't letting him see me naked, and men are very blah blah blah, and they need this and that, and I wasn't giving him what he needed, and basically victim blamed me into forgiving him and staying in the marriage. And then it became a pattern throughout the marriage
Mm.
that he would like cheat and lie and manipulate. And I just kind of told myself, I chose this person. What will everyone think? No one will believe me. They all think he's so great. And then, at the end, it was like, he's got 4 girlfriends. I've got video. I have to leave. There's no option to stay. There's no stories to believe that will work. And whether people believe me or not, there's just no coming back from that. But it was in that, and it was a terrible divorce, but it was quick. It was 6 months. And it was during that time where I wasn't eating, I wasn't sleeping. I think I lost 30 pounds in 2 months, and I hadn't slept. I would put the kids to bed and I would be up, and then the alarm would go off to get them up from bed. And I finally called a therapist and said, she's like, what do you need? Are you okay? And I said, no, I want to live. I want to be a good mom for my kids, but I feel like my body is trying to die and I don't want to. And she counseled me for an hour without charging me. I was like, "Do you need my insurance?" She's like, "I'll get it from you later. I just want to know that you know it's okay to be okay. And, we'll talk again next week." And that's where my therapy journey started, and my creative journaling picked back up, and I started learning my worth and what I want and don't want in a relationship, and how to be a excellent mom. And so it really, I would love to say it was me being like, you know what, I want to get better, but it was really me crashing at the lowest point in my life. I guess akin to a drug overdose or something for somebody else's story, because a lot of people that go through what I go through end up relying on substance to get to save their sanity. But with me, it was just life. Kind of my poor decisions brought me to a point where I had no choice but to get better or just completely lose. And I got better.
That's awesome. No, but well, it's not awesome, but it's
It's good that I got better.
the awesome part is that you got therapy and all that. So I should really clarify that.
Yeah.
But you know, I think you say something really important that I think people just don't really put that above the fold. And one of the things that is that you went through a series of major events that
Mhm.
were a lot of low points throughout your entire life.
Yes.
You picked that was your lowest, and I'm thinking to myself, but all those other times weren't they low too? Like, how
You're
did you?
so right. When I was 10, that should be my lowest, or I was
I
13,
mean,
that
like,
should be.
right? But we all do that. We all. This is what we come back to. We suppress it. We try to move forward. We do that all the time, over and over time. And I think it's like the universe or God or however you want to think is. Um, they're kind of like saying they're giving you hints. They're giving you red flags. They're saying like, "This is it. This is it. This is it." And they're like,
Yeah.
and that happened to me in 2019.
Uh-huh.
2019 was my lowest, like the worst of the worst. Even though I went through a lot of low points beforehand,
Yeah.
but that was a pivotal shift of something that I went from here to here, and that changed my whole outlook, and it just opened up a whole new world for me that I was forced to do that.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it happens with people. They get to the point where it's no longer a choice.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
either do it or you don't, and you have to put the work in. And if you don't put the work in, you're going to suffer some more. And that's the problem. I think we don't, like I said, it's suppressing and trying to move forward. It's just ignoring the red flags, or this person's okay.
Mhm.
We don't set up healthy boundaries. We don't do all
Mhm.
these other, like what you're talking about now is I put up healthy boundaries now. If this person is bothering me, I know what my boundaries are.
Mhm.
So I think that's where you said the lowest point is. I look at it and I go, well, yeah, you had other lowest point too. So,
Yeah, I think what
but
makes this the lowest point is that my body gave up. Where throughout all of my
uh,
my trauma,
yeah,
I was tough. I was like, "I'm tough. I'm a fighter. I could just I'm just gonna keep going. I'll just keep going. Let's fight and keep going and fight and fight." And this is the point where my body was like, "No,
mm.
I'm done. You're not doing the work, so I'm not doing the work."
So
That to me made it my lowest point.
are you more sensitive to things? I just curious because I'm more sensitive. Like, are you
I'm
sensitive?
extremely sensitive.
Like, okay, like energy. I mean, obviously we kind of have good.
Like intuitively.
Yeah, I think we both have good energy. I mean, we both like. I wouldn't do this if I didn't think I had good energy with you. Like, not. I'm
Yeah,
not saying
I
you're.
adore you.
Oh,
You're one of my favorite supporters.
thank you. But I mean that is in all respect. Like, it's hard to like. I was watching something on TV, and I went, "Ooh, that person just does not have the energy that I like. It just there's something wrong with it." And I want to get into the that kind of stuff. But is it similar to you when you walk into a room and you feel the energy? Like, do you sense things, and how do you deal with that?
I have felt like I sensed an abusive home without knowing there was abuse in it.
Wow.
So the way my home was.
And are you
No,
and
my
do you
home
confirm
was
that? Do you confirm that that actually is so?
no.
Oh,
There was one where I did, but a couple where I didn't. I didn't ask. It was a friend. It wasn't like they're little kids. It was a young adult friend. I think I was 20, and a friend had us over to. She was living with her parents and over for dinner, and her mom made lasagna, and just everything about it was triggering me like I was in my aunt's house. And I was just like, there's something wrong here. There's something fake going on. But I never said a word to her. I have no idea if I was right, but I have felt that. And you're right. In a room, like, in just talking to someone, I feel like it's um, easy to tell when they're putting on a front, they're being fake about things. And I feel like it's also easy for me to tell when somebody's being super genuine.
hmm. I think that's what happens when you've been, because I was dyslexic and I was being fun as a kid, and there's a whole bunch of other things behind that. But I mean, you're kind of like I lived in a very strong family dynamic, very strong, very situation. Um, but I think what happens is get these sense of heights of. I mean, peace is more and more important to me than anything else. I do not like.
Number one priority.
It's like if I don't feel, and I get pissed off if I don't feel peace, and I
Yeah,
and I mean that, and I don't, not that I get pissed off and I get really pissed off because it's just like now you're infringing on me and
right,
it's bothering me, and it took me so long to find peace. I don't need that
right.
part of the world anymore. So that's something I've learned that's important. Peace is really, really important.
Yeah.
And the other thing I've really learned throughout this process is always remembered you're loved no matter what. And it doesn't matter the person, you just got to understand that you're always loved no matter what.
Mhm.
And you don't need it from somebody else. You don't need it from anyone else. It's just you have to remind yourself that's you're loved no matter what. And you
Mhm.
can use God in that situation, Buddha, whoever you are feeling, but
Whatever
that's
your perception of.
and you have to put that energy out all the time. And so now you started in Substack, and I'm going to jump. I'm sorry, I'm going to jump in. I think June of 2025. Is that right? Or
Yeah, it's June or July,
July?
I think.
What made you go on Substack and say, "This is the plat," or were you just more of a reader at the time? Because that's how
Yeah.
most of us are when we start.
Um, I had a best friend that I had a falling out with after, but they were on Substack and had begun their writing journey, and they were encouraging me, and we were reading each other's stuff. And I was just like, I just feel like I want to do it. I want to do it. And they were like, don't rush yourself. And I just didn't have anything finished. I just wasn't putting I didn't have the time. I was in school and working, and I don't know, I wasn't making enough time to sit with it. And I also didn't know what kind of material I wanted to share on Substack and what kind I wanted to keep to myself. And I've written some pretty graphic like scenes to get scenes out of my head, and I think that I'm going to reserve those for myself or the book.
Yeah,
I don't want the trauma porn, like I don't want that. I want the mindset and, like you said, facts. This is what happened. I'm not going to dance around it,
yeah,
but I'm also not going to go for a shock and awe value because that doesn't help. But I started to see what was going on in the country. So once I decided, okay, I kind of know what I want to put out on Substack, and I want part of it to be what I'm working on for the book. And I started working on that. But then I also, like, everything went to hell in the US, and I started seeing so much injustice. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to start sharing my story while this is going on. It felt wrong. So I made my first piece about what I was seeing in the US first. Like, this is what I stand for. This is what I'm seeing. I need to speak out against this. My
Right.
my justice warrior spirit was just, you need to do this first. So after I did that, and I did 2 pieces on that, then I started posting my personal stuff. And I felt like this was the right time. So I was on Substack for probably a year. I don't even know.
Yeah.
Reading other people's stuff here and there, not being super active, wondering what I want to share, if anything, and how I want it to work with the book. So it took me a while to figure out. And then once I figured it out, I sat with it for too long because I didn't I felt weird and selfish just starting with my story when there's such a huge story right all around us happening to people. But once I started with that, I felt okay to move to my stuff.
Well, there's everybody has a story, no matter what, big or small.
Yeah.
Everybody has a story, but it's how it's told. And
Mm-hmm.
honestly, when I read that piece, your voice came out, your inner child came out. You had purpose, you had passion, you had the rawness, you had the honesty, you had all those elements of a good writer.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, and that's something that most people struggle for years. Like I struggled for a couple years before I found my voice. I mean, if you look back at my writing, it was just very generic and kind of like whatever.
Matter of fact.
Yeah, matter. Like no, I was doing 100 days of inspirational stories of 100 stories, 100 inspirational stories in 100 days, and it was just talking about other people and not really talking about, like I was just kind of like playing around. And then my true voice came out of the rediscovery of Vancouver when I actually wrote about John and his inner child
Mm-hmm.
and putting those pieces together. Most people struggle with that to get there, but you did it in a way that, I mean, obviously that's one piece of multiple pieces that you're gonna. I don't know if are you planning on sharing them on Substack or what's or
Sharing what?
like those pieces, those stories. You plan on sharing them on Substack first before you publish it? Publish them?
Yeah. So
Okay.
all the shadow pieces are going to be in the book.
Okay. Good.
Maybe not all the poetry and things that are unrelated, but the shadow pieces on my story are going to be in the book. And I've been writing things like that throughout my life as creative journaling. I have a couple of big books of just blank pages
Yeah.
where I would draw, write poetry, write thought, take a thought and write it to fruition, have
Right.
some epiphanies.
Hmm.
So I'm well practiced in it, but I wasn't putting things together in finished pieces. Like once I publish it, it's like no changes are being made. That's finished. It's going in the book, and that's hard to do. You know
It
that.
is hard to do.
That's
Yeah.
hard to do. So
Especially
the
if
piece
someone
from my
picks up.
journal can be erased.
Well, especially if someone picks it out and says, "Hey, you made an error," and I'm like, "Oh, you know, all right,
I spend so much time in editing. I'm like, this should go there, and that. How should I say
Right.
that? Past participle. What tense am I in?
So, you're now writing. Is that kind of how? Like, I think we touched on a little bit, and I don't think we really said it. Is it helping you kind of like get your head like I want to say straight, but it's not. But getting that voice, the noise, and put it on paper, has it actually started helping you kind of like move forward in your life? And is it
Yeah,
pleasing your inner child now more and more?
yeah. It helps. It helps writing from a more healed and processed perspective. It really helps. When I was writing without therapy and with thinking I'm grown and I'm fine and I suppress it, I'm moving on, when little bits would come up so hard that I would just have to write.
Mm-hmm.
It was more like, I'm so sad I went through this. It's horrible that I have to write this down. Look
Right.
how horrible this is, that it's bubbling up so hard that I have to get it out of me.
Right.
And
Good.
now it's more like, wow, I've processed this really well, and I can finally like give my inner child the voice that she deserves. And like every time I put a chapter out there, it feels finished. It feels like, there's a lot going on that I'll still always deal with, but that chapter, that social worker visit, those early morning walks in labeled as something else, and how I used to have to sneak tapes and books and label them as something else in order to read or to listen to music. Now, I, wow, I've come full fruition, and I don't like the phrase "I'm over it," but I've processed
Yeah.
it. It's been fully processed.
Yeah.
It's there. It happened. I understand it, but it doesn't hurt me anymore. It doesn't actively harm me anymore. And my inner child like gets to be fully seen by me. You know, my best friend that I fell out with, I wrote a piece called "To Beautiful" to them because I still love them very much. But something they always said was, remember that you're writing to your audience. Who's your audience? My audience is my future self. It's me.
Exactly.
And everybody else gets, if you want to enjoy it, if you want to relate, if you want to be disturbed by it, that's cool. But my audience is me. This is
And
for me.
you say something very truthful. Like people always say, write to your audience, and
Yeah.
that's no. It's writing for yourself, for
Yeah. It's
who
more who's
you.
your audience? Know who they are.
No, but
Yeah.
I write from me, and
Mm-hmm.
I write for my legacy because at one day I
Mm-hmm.
want my thoughts and my words to be. Hopefully, my children get a little bit of a sense and start saying, "Let's figure out what Dad was all about." And I don't mean that to be rude, but finally go out and say, "Let's start reading his stuff." And I write really for myself, but for my legacy, and then one day that they can read about me and not feel like they've lost something and still have
Yeah.
it out there. That's interesting. So now you have other. Um, you so far you're into writing, you're into music, and you're into the heavy metal and all that, which is kind of cool. Um,
Mhm.
I guess Ozzy was a sad day, right?
Yeah. That always
Yeah,
is.
yeah, that was sad. Um, then you say you're very creative in the sense you draw, and do you paint as well?
Yes. I paint a lot.
Oh, cool.
I actually just finished a recent one. I can show you. It's a heart, and on one side is kind of the, what would you like, commercialized or
Yeah,
imagination of a heart, and the other side is an anatomical heart, and they come
yeah.
together to make one whole heart.
Now, what media do you use? Do you use acrylic, oil, or
I use
water?
acrylics.
Okay.
I also like to paint pottery a lot. I'll spend
Okay.
like weeks on a pottery piece. It's very therapeutic. I'm not great at watercolor. I try it here and there. My son is way better than me at watercolor, and I'm not great with sketching. It takes me a long time. I can draw something pretty, but it takes me a long time, and I don't draw like realism
So what you
people or something.
do you actually so when you paint, you just paint like this is a canvas and I'm painting?
No,
Is that
I sketch it first.
oh
I
you
always
sketch it
sketch it
first?
first. Yeah, I sketch it on the canvas with pencil and make sure it's all how I want it, and then I paint.
Right. I kind of have so when I paint as well, I paint
Mhm.
acrylic, and one of the things I do is I look at it and I just go I have an image, and then I'll start painting. I don't really sketch. I just go ahead with it.
Wow, that's so brave.
Well, yeah, like my painting teacher was really and by the way, I should say I didn't paint of my entire life until I was about 50 something years old. My first time painting.
I was in my 30s when I started painting.
Now, do you use the does I mean one of the things I love painting, it becomes so peaceful because you're so
Mhm.
like you're in this world, you're painting the brushes. It's almost like handwriting, but it kind of you lose. It's so sometimes you struggle with the blend of the paint and all that, but you can always like if there's a mistake, you'd always paint over it, and
Yeah,
that's no
that's the
problem.
beauty of acrylics.
Yeah,
You can always paint over it.
exactly. A little bit of water, get going. Um, So that's cool. So like, that's one of the things that I've learned uh, talking to people like yourself is that people get into these like they're very creative. Like they get so like this part of the world was so hard. They become so heightened. So their senses is high, their artistic side is very high, and
It's true.
they're it's just and they're so drawn into it where they're finally starting to see some pleasure in their world.
Mhm.
I should, and but that, like, you find, how did you, like, when you're doing all this creative stuff, obviously it wasn't really there as a child, was it?
So I was always an art child. I was never a pretending child. That's one reason I say I can't write fiction. So I don't have the imagination for it. When I was a little kid, I just wanted to sit and color or paint by number, or I would mix mud and leaves and pretend it was a potion. Like, I always wanted to craft. And so as an adult, my escape, especially as an introverted adult, my escape has always been like the craft of baking, making candles,
Right.
painting, writing, those things. Like you said, it can have frustrations, it teaches you patience,
Yeah.
but I love learning, and it's a learning process. You get better and better at it and you get your style.
Hmm.
Like with baking, it's such cool alchemy because you can tweak it a little bit every time and see what the results are, and then write down, ooh, it worked better when I used this much of this, or I added this. And then you kind of perfect. Like, I have the most perfect pot pie recipe that I've created. And it's I wish I could show it to you. It is a notebook paper in pencil with just covered in scribbles and lines drawn through and information, but it's like literally perfect now. And
Wow.
it's just, that's fun for me.
Are
That's
you willing to
I
share
get
that with
to,
us?
yeah, maybe I'll type it out for you.
Someday.
I don't know that you can understand the paper I have, but
Well, I would love to see your artwork. So if you could send me a copy so I could post it and the after show, so the
yeah.
audience can see that too. I'd love to see that. Do you have a studio that you post this, or a place where you sell your artwork, or?
No, I used to, years ago, I used to make prints of my paintings and sell them on Etsy, but it was not very fulfilling after all. And it's not fulfilling for me to make my art a work thing. So I stopped doing that. What was the other question?
No, I just like, I was wondering if you were going to. I didn't know if your art was for sale or anything like that, because I
No,
was.
it's not. It's not at this time. I might
So it's a
do that
private
in the
gallery.
future. And I've given a lot of them away. So like, I have scans of some of them I've given away, or sometimes just a kind of a
Yeah.
crappy picture. But I mostly paint, like, I like to paint nerdy things. I've made some Star Wars. My favorite one I've done is a Princess Bride painting that I waited in 4 hours at Comic-Con to get Carrie Elwes to sign.
Oh, wow.
So like, I paint some nerdy stuff, but I've also painted a shark, and
Oh.
a heart, and I've done, like you said, the only thing I can do like this spontaneous painting is abstract.
Okay.
I've done a couple of abstracts where I just go where it flows,
Right. Right.
but yeah, I
I'm
don't.
learning how to do this modern type abstract, which the cities are, and I'm trying to paint the city
Oh,
and
nice.
trying to do that. I really like that painting. I'm learning how to do that. That's not. It's looks easy, but it's not. Because there's layers of paints on top of each other just to
Yeah,
get to that image. And I follow a guy named Paul Keen, like Keena. He's an English artist, and he does a lot of those type of stuff. So it's pretty cool. I mean, I like it and I enjoy it.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it has that rain, and it kind of, like when you have that in the street lights, it kind of pulls those lights into the streets and kind of like
Hmm.
into the person. So when you're looking at it, it's kind of really cool.
Yeah, I love that.
So with all that said, now you're about to write a book. When are you think of publishing this book?
Oh, probably in 2 or 3 years, because I have a lot of shadow pieces to complete before I can put it all together as a coherent story. Right now, I'm just putting out bits and like snapshots from here or there. Oh, I was 9, I was 14.
Yeah.
So, like you said, like, you can see in the social worker visit that in my mind, these are the people who stole me from my mother. And, there's alluded to that we've been suffering a lot of abuse for years and whatever, but you don't know the whole story of like how we got to be there or why. I've started writing about the plane ride, where me and my sister are being sent away. that's hard too, because I'm like, do I start where the dream where my mother told me she's sending us away? Do I start on the plane? What feels best for me? So like these things take a lot of time. I don't post super often, so it's
Yeah,
probably gonna, it takes a lot of time, and I am a single mom working full time, and um, getting the house ready to sell so we can leave the country. And so
okay.
I'm thinking probably 2 or 3 years I'll have it put together enough to at least say I'm almost finished.
So, so is shadow part of the? I'm just trying to see the metaphor of that name. Was that because you were like in the shadows as you were a kid, or how
It's
did that?
more the shadows that we create by pushing stuff down and not addressing the things that happened to us that are still affecting us. So
Gotcha.
I see each thing as a shadow, and you can't make that shadow one with you and a part of you that works together with you and is a cohesive piece of you until you fully process it. And until you do that, it's still a shadow, and you're still trying not to look at it, pushing it down, making it unseen, and it's bubbling up, it's haunting you, it's affecting your relationships, it's affecting your life negatively. So that's like the metaphor, I guess, is everything we push down becomes its own shadow. I wrote it into Beautiful that I felt like my best friend who decided not to be friends with me anymore kind of became a shadow, and I needed to write about it.
Right. What that right there is a lesson learned. So if you, that's beautiful. So how do people? Are you just on Substack, and is that one way to get a hold of you, or is there to follow you in your
I am
journey?
exclusively on Substack right now. I don't have social media. There's only a couple of people that know me in real life that know about my Substack.
Okay.
So it's I don't use my real name. I don't have my regular email address. I speak out against the admin often, and that's one reason.
Yeah.
And uh, also, these people that I'm writing about, I don't know what they have access to or where they are. And I'd really rather them not have reactions to what I write until it's a book and it's already out. So there's multiple reasons why I'm using a pen name. That means a lot to me. Um, and why I'm not on social media. Social media is soulless and toxic in my opinion, and it had nothing but a negative. Even when like I said, the boundaries, even when it was a private social media and the only people I was friends with or people I knew in real life and didn't have a negative effect on me, it felt empty and soulless. And so I was like done.
Right.
So I'm not doing that anymore either. And also, I don't have the energy to promote myself. Like I have friends on here who have grown a lot faster than me. I have a little over 300 subs, I think. It took me my 7 or 8 months of writing to get there. It's authentic growth, and I'm proud of it. I could grow faster, I guess, if I was posting a bunch of notes every day and made it more meaningless, I guess, in my eyes. But I'm here for authenticity, and I don't have a lot of time. So I put what little time I have into reading the pieces people show me and interacting with people on my subs chat and writing.
You can still have a great experience with 300 to 400 people.
I'm having a
Yeah.
really good experience right now, and I'll grow, and that's fine. And if I don't, that's fine too, because the people that want to relate are gonna relate, and people that don't aren't going to. And that's my audience is me. And I really love seeing other people grow on here and supporting their work. People that I believe in, like you and um, Storm Whisperer, et cetera, et cetera. There's a bunch of them. But
Oh,
it's been really nice.
she says hi, by the way.
Thank you, Storm. Oh, she's my favorite fiction writer on here. She writes some beautiful, beautiful fantasy fiction, and I actually bought her book.
Oh,
I
good.
bought your book too.
You did?
I have a few. I bought Hawthorne Robots
Which
book.
one did you buy?
It was Earned Not Given.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually,
So
just you talked about the first chapter, just by the way. My first chapter in that first book is not the original chapter.
really,
Yeah, actually, someone said something to me and it really teed me off. But then I sat with it and I said, you know what? They're right. What's the big deal with that? So, the intro made no sense. It had no flow to the rest of the book. And so one weekend took, I mean, day and night, I just sat in front of the computer and I started writing it out and I figured out what I needed to write. And so the first chapter was, so when you talk about your first chapter, sometimes it's not the first chapter you have to worry about. It's the flow of the rest of the thing. So when
yeah,
you write, like, so when I write just, I put it all on paper, I get it out there, and then I figure out how it looks like. And once that's done, then I'm processing, and then I read it a couple more times. And then it's like, oh, I need to add here, I need to add there. And so that's how I use Substack. Substack is always originated with my stories. And what I do is I post it up there, and it's really the high level 100,000 feet type thing. And then when I get into the editing, that's when I really zero into like more of the storyline, more of the meats and potatoes, the contents that I'm missing, or like what am I missing. So
hmm
when you're writing, just don't worry about, don't sit there and
how it's all
process.
gonna fall into order.
Nah, just let the thing flow and just
Well,
write it all out.
yes, you're right, and I am giving myself the grace of like it'll come together how it comes together, and worrying about it right now isn't going to help anything. I'm big against worry. I'm so over worry. I'm like, there's legitimate concern, and then there's circles in your head. So
They're called
I'm
hamster
writing the
wheels.
pieces that I feel called to write right now, and
Yeah.
I'm eventually I will be putting a timeline together because, like I said, and like I'm writing in the post I'll be posting this weekend. Time is a very squishy soup, and it's been many years, so I remember what I remember, but it's all in pieces. And I have a solid plan to first talk with my mother. I've already approached her about that, and she is open to talking with me and recording the sessions. And because part of my therapeutic process was trying to see through the eyes of my mother, I had spent so much time blaming her for everything that ever happened to me as a kid. I didn't spend 1 minute considering, why did she send us away? Why did she think that was the best thing to do? Why did she think that was okay? Why did she think we would actually be happy there? Why didn't she come for us? And I found out there was so much going on behind the scenes and so many lies she was being told, and, coming from her damaged perspective and things like that. So I'd really like to honor her perspective as well. I can't write for her, but I can write what she has opened my eyes to and the perspective that I gained by finally seeing past my own nose.
You say something very important there, like, because we all come from an ego point of view, and when you're in that process, you are, um, in most cases, children are very young, like my children. You read them when you read the Earned Not Given. That's probably,
Mhm.
they're about 10, maybe 6, 7, 8, 10, in that range there, right? So the maturity level is not there. That's number one. Number two, my children are much older now. They're in their early adults, but their maturity level has not matured enough because obviously the brain has not fully matured, right? So you don't get the full capacity quite yet. And I'm not saying they're but I'm not saying that they're dumb or anything like that. That's not the idea.
Yeah.
The idea behind that is they because they were in such a trauma situation, they are still processing it, and it still takes time for them to understand it. So I don't think they're going to understand my world until probably when they're in their 30s, and that's just
when
reality.
you start seeing past your own nose. And
Right.
yeah.
Exactly. And but you, I'm really, so you have a remarkable story. You have a voice that should be shared. I also want to say I love your voiceover. I think that is, I wish I could do that. I can't. I can't do my voiceovers, but you do it, and that's awesome because because it really made it more personable. And when you start to write your book, you should do your own voiceover for audio for sure, because it's soothing, it's understanding. It puts you have that. It has that passion behind it and the emotions, and you can feel it when you're reading your story. So it's kind of cool. In in all in all this that we talked about, what is one of the one takeaway you have right now that you can share with the audience about your writing or Substack, your experience? What was the one thing you can share?
Well, first, thank you for the compliment on the voiceovers. Those are hard to do. Hard to
I
put
know
out
they
there.
are.
I'm like, oh,
Trust
I
me.
sound like a
I
dork.
know. I
And that's
know.
like 14 minutes of talk, and I'm like, I can't mess up. I can't. And then I'm like, I messed up. Who cares? Leave it in.
Why do you think I do live? Because then I don't have a
I
chance. I
know.
can't redo it. So it is what it is.
It's like once you've done a 14-minute read 3 times, you're like, that's it. Which one has the least amount of mistakes? But takeaway. I see people that are inspired by people like me telling their story, and they go, that's what I'm going to do. And they start doing it from an unhealed perspective, and then they crash, and it's triggering, and they spiral, which is another thing that's going to be in the piece I'm doing this weekend. But um, it's a lot of work that you have to do to get to the point where it's okay with you to, to where you've processed it enough to write about it, and to like put your story out there, to know the difference between sharing and oversharing, to sharing in a safe space, to oversharing in an unsafe space, to knowing who and what is safe. I've seen people post about their trauma and then say it's been a year and I'm rewriting this because I don't have this perspective anymore. And that's something I didn't want to do, because if I had written this 6 years, 7 years ago, before I started the therapy, I would be writing from more of a place of personal pain than objectivity. That includes the pain,
Yeah.
And so I would say, like, if you're going to start, if you have trauma and you need to process it and you want to write about it, awesome. Do that. Do the work first. Write
Well,
about it while you're doing the work, but that's for yourself.
right.
Or post things that you're working through the philosophy of pain and trauma. But when you're writing about the events that happened to you, that's something you have to be careful with. That's something that's the most vulnerable thing. And if you
It's
get the
like,
wrong feedback or whatever, you're being traumatized all over again. And
yeah,
it might cause more harm than good, putting it out there before you're ready. You know what I mean?
I say hell with it. Just go with it. No, just kidding. Well,
I know what it's like to share when you think it's safe, and then watch a person's face change and never see you that same way
no, I
again,
don't want to.
or
No.
whatever.
Yeah. Well, hey, it was a pleasure today. Thank you for doing this today. This was, I hope everybody got some sense of who you are. Follow her, subscribe, do what you got to do. Um, she's a really good writer, a good storyteller. Go figure out, go jump on. I've posted her a couple times, so please do that. I will be posting this afterwards later tonight, so you'll hit the after show. And I got Joe Nicholas coming up on Monday night, and I'm excited about that one too. He was my earliest followers.
Oh, I want to try to watch that one.
So
I'm
yeah.
gonna do something next weekend too with Edwin, who's also been a supporter from the early days and is an amazing writer. I'm excited about that, and I'd love to come talk to you again because this just feels amazing.
Oh,
I
well,
just love talking to you. You're wonderful. I appreciate you, and you're a wonderful writer, and I love reading your perspective and the things that how you've processed the things that you've been through.
well, thank you. I appreciate it. Anyways, thank you again. Have a wonderful Saturday, everybody. It's sunny here, so I'm going to go outside. I got my shorts on, so we're going to go out and have some
Yay.
fun. And thank you very much, Shadow. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good day.